Thank you, Chaplain. For Mom, Kate, and Terry, Jim's wife, his lady, daughters, Amy and Kirsten, and sons Michael and Andrew, brother Phil, and all of Jim's brothers and sisters who are gathered here today. At the Father Capodanno Chapel, a chapel that is dedicated to a man who epitomizes sacrifice and valor, much like his younger brother Jim. Father Capodanno in Vietnam went forward to friendly lines to render aid to a wounded corpsman, a severely wounded corpsman, and shielded that man with his body, giving his life in the process. And this was after he had been wounded twice earlier in the day and had refused evacuation. He earned the Medal of Honor for that valor that day. So it's a special place we're gathered in today at Father Capodanno Chapel, and a man who was recognized in a time of war that Jim served in. I am Willy Buhl, and I had the honor and privilege to serve with Jim over the last, I would say, decade and change, and a little bit over a decade together, where we grew close because you couldn't help but be close to Jim. He was everywhere all the time, and for his mom and his wife, I mean, gosh, I don't know, right up front, what a debt of gratitude Jim's Marine Corps has to you for sacrificing all that time. Yes, I know he loved every minute of it and wouldn't be anywhere else except with you, but he was here a lot. And we all knew him, and if you look around the room, yes, a lot of the audience here is Jim's generation, of course, and there are some senior Marines beyond Jim's generation here, but there are also a lot of young men and women in the room too. And if we could, and it were possible, we'd have tens of thousands here of all the young men that and their families that Jim steadied, encouraged, and set the highest personal example for in sobriety and otherwise. And I know you know what I mean. So, yes, all right, Fred Arnold's in the audience somewhere. Where are you, Fred? Yeah, there he is. I mean, I have this vision of Jim and Fred with these conical hats on, these VC hats that they had, marching in the 5th Marines formation up to the field mess night around the corner. And Jim, not only did he hike with the Marines and Fred up to the mess night, but he hoisted every bit as good as they did and slept out in the field with them as well. And that's Jim Kaylor. I thought long and hard about whether or not to wear my uniform today to honor Jim. But the last time that we were together, and it was here, and it was one of the most magnificent talks he ever gave. And he was in civvies that day, and he looked so good in his uniform always. His sheriff's uniform with his campaign ribbons on, his Purple Heart, his Silver Star. You know what I'm talking about. Jim just he looked like a Marine always. He was squared away. He was somebody you could look up to, you wanted to be like. And last time we were together, he wore civvies, and it surprised me. But I thought, he's going to be the mayor of Bodfish, Montana, or something, because he gave this wonderful talk, and I want to vote for him or something. And you know, and I'm trying to, you know, to find some humor there, because Jim was so funny. And, you know, even in the toughest times, you know, memorial services and things, Jim had a wry sense of humor, and he could make something positive out of the toughest situations. And when you live through what Jim lived through, that's the way you are if you come out of it in one piece. And you'd never hear Jim describe himself in valorous terms. You would hear about the men around him who were most valorous, who gave their lives for him, just as he was prepared to do for them, but it wasn't his time. It just wasn't his time then, and that's how he recounted it up to the very present, when we were last together here just a few really short weeks ago. And so Jim represents the very best of his generation. He truly does. And it is because of men like Jim and the family that supported him, the mother who raised him, that we have such a tremendous Marine Corps. How we had a tremendous sheriff's department that Jim served so faithfully in for so many years. And how we are fortunate to have this great nation. No matter what your politics is or anything of that nature, when you have men like your nation produces men like Jim Kaylor, you have the greatest country in the world. You all know what I'm talking about. That's why you're here today. So when we first learned of Jim's ascent to St. Peter's Gates, where he checked in, and he always talked about meeting Chesty Puller. That was one of his big things, and I know you know that. You must have heard that. You know, I heard it a lot, so you must really have heard it a lot. I mean, you know, I think Chesty Puller's the lucky man, frankly. He's the one who was lucky. And I'm going to, one more time, if I may, Fred, say that, you know, Fred said he left the party. And I said, are you kidding? He didn't leave the party. He took the party topside, and they are, you know, the canteen cups are clinking up there, and oh my gosh, you know, is the Lord ready for Jim? I guess he was, but I'm not sure all the other Marines up there are. You know, a lot of his buddies who he's been waiting to be with for some decades. Yeah, there's big hugs. You know, and we're going to have to wait a little bit to have those with him again. God bless Jim Kaylor, Lance Corporal, United States Marine Corps. God bless your family. Semper Fidelis.